Ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you something, brother.
It's Talk Wrestling Live with Felix The Cat Katlovski
and Gemini Joe.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
We heard rumbling. No, we heard rumors. Oh my God, 5150 at LAX.
Listen live on Mondays at 4 p.m. on NorthCoastUnderground.com.
And follow us on Twitter at TWL 24/7.
I'm in no mood for your wisecrack. Let's get it on.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another episode of Talk Wrestling Live. It is Monday, January 28th, and I've got a lot of wrestling news to talk about today. We had NXT Takeover from Phoenix. We had the Royal Rumble that also happened in Arizona, but right now we're going to kick off the WWE Mount Rushmore report.
And now it's time for the Mount Rushmore report here on Talk Wrestling Live. All the news from the kings of sports entertainment, WWE.
And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
And this is Felix The Cat Katlovski. Unfortunately, Gemini Joe is not here today, and I'm hoping he will be back next week for another episode of Talk Wrestling Live and the Mount Rushmore Report. We're going to kick off the Mount Rushmore Report talking about what happened over the weekend at NXT Takeover from Phoenix, and we're going to start with the main event, actually. Tommaso Ciampa, he was the champion. He still is the champion because he retained his championship against Aleister Black. Now, we saw a lot of in-ring psychology that was used in this match, but it didn't work as well as the in-ring psychology we saw in Gargano's match against Ricochet. Now, I'll get into that, what in-ring psychology is, and you'll hear more about that. The next match I want to talk about was the NXT Women's Championship. It was on the line when Shayna Baszler, she was the champion, and she was defending it against Bianca Belair. Now, we saw the winner in this match. That was Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler has a lot of MMA experience. I believe she was in the UFC. I got to see her in AIW, a local wrestling promotion here in Cleveland, before she made it to NXT. So that was a nice treat for me to see, and a lot of the wrestling fans who do check out indie wrestling, you might get to see those people, the wrestlers, in indie promotions, and then they make their break in WWE, and next thing you know, they're there on the main roster. So you never know what could happen. Shayna Baszler, she might end up on Raw or SmackDown one day. Right now, she's on NXT, and she's dominating. Now, let's talk about this match. I felt like Bianca Belair, she got some offense in this match, but at no point was I really expecting her to win this match. Although, you know what? Bianca did use her hair as a weapon, and it delivered with a really big cut on Shayna Baszler. I was actually surprised. I mean, it's an interesting way to use your head, or I guess your hair, as a weapon. I was not expecting that kind of a cut just from her using her hair, but I guess it's really thick. I don't know if those are extensions or if that's her real hair, but that looked pretty brutal. I mean, just her hair being used as a weapon, and it was able to draw blood like that. That's vicious. Now, Shayna Baszler, she still showed the dominance in this match. I still think that she doesn't need to use her backup in Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke. I mean, she has them, so I guess I do it because I can. But, I mean, look at the size of Shayna Baszler. Do you really think she needs that backup? I get it. She's a heel, and she breaks the rules. She likes taking shortcuts when she can. But Shayna, she's the size of a giant, and her buddies, they're like the size of Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. Do you really think that they're going to be that much of assistance? I mean, I spoke to a lot of fans, and they said that this match was one of the best matches of the night, if not the best match of the night, so they really enjoyed this match. I just felt that Shayna Baszler, she doesn't really need that assistance in Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir, so it would be interesting to see what happens when the two turn on Shayna Baszler, or maybe Shayna Baszler will turn on them. I mean, this is way down the road. I mean, I don't think there's any kind of breaking in her alliance right now in Shayna Baszler's team, so it seems like in the future maybe they're going to have a bad breakup, because I mean, you have this giant in Shayna Baszler, and then you have her buddies. I don't know if they're just riding the success train with her and they're just there, just riding her coattails, or are they really that much help to her? So we'll see if Shayna Baszler decides one day she doesn't need their help and she breaks away from them, or if they feel that they can do it on their own. But for now, they're a strong team, they're a solid faction, and they're on the same page. You don't really see much miscommunication on their side. Next, we had the NXT Tag Team Championships. Those were on the line. We saw the Undisputed Era. They were taking on the War Raiders. And in the end, it was the War Raiders who got the win. The War Raiders, they finally got the job done in this match. They finally got those tag team championships. There was lots of great tag team moves shown by the War Raiders. I really loved it when Raymond Rowe, he was handed an opponent by his tag team partner, and he just stacked one opponent on the other in one single move, and Raymond Rowe just took them both down. I mean, that's an impressive tag team maneuver right there. Raymond Rowe showing a lot of power in that maneuver. But Undisputed Era, they look like children compared to their opponents in this match, the War Raiders. I mean, it was just no comparison. Like, the size said it all right there. So, of course, the War Raiders, they were successful in that match. Then you had the NXT North American Championship. It was on the line when Ricochet was defending that title against Johnny Gargano. So throughout 2018, Johnny Gargano, he just couldn't get the job done. He was setting his sights on the NXT World Championship. He had some great memorable feuds with both Aleister Black and Tommaso Ciampa, but his championship goal, it was just seeing failure. I mean, he set his sights on that NXT North American Championship at the end, because he just couldn't get that NXT World title. So I talked about the in-ring psychology of the main event, Tommaso Ciampa and Aleister Black, but in this match with Gargano and Ricochet, they had, I felt, even better use of in-ring psychology. In-ring psychology, it's really kind of how you could understand where you're going from A to B. So they're like teasing like the mat being exposed on the outside, and you knew that somebody was eventually going to take a hard fall, and they did. That's the kind of in-ring psychology I'm talking about, where maybe somebody's working on a certain part of the body, they're targeting it, and then it gets more damaged, and that's what they're going to go for when maybe they go for a submission move. So that's that type of in-ring psychology. And then we also had Matt Riddle. He was taking on Cassius Ohno. Now, the winner in that match was Matt Riddle. Some fans that I spoke to hated this match. Some thought it was really boring. I had to disagree with their opinions because I really enjoyed this match for the hard hits. I think that there was a shot scene in slow motion of Matt Riddle getting kicked in the mouth, and it looked really brutal, like when you're watching somebody in MMA get knocked out. I mean, this was slow motion, so these are the same kind of shots they get in those replays when you're seeing that kind of stuff happen. But Riddle, he wasn't knocked out, though he did manage to get the third win in this feud between himself and Ohno. So Matt Riddle, he won 3 times now. What are you going to do, Delewy? Are you going to make this a 4th match? Do we really want to see that? Maybe the feud isn't over. It still seems like there's beef between these two. So I don't know what you can really do. I mean, they had 3 matches already. All the matches were won by Matt Riddle. Where does Cassius Ohno go from here? Does he set his sights on a new opponent and start a feud there? Or are we going to keep seeing this feud between Matt Riddle and Cassius Ohno? Should we see maybe a stipulation added to this to make things interesting? Something needs to change. I mean, you're just giving us the same match over and over again. And I understand maybe one guy, he won cleanly and the next thing he tries to cheat to win. But, I mean, there needs to be something more interesting than just that. You need to give us some kind of stipulation, because this is 3 times now we saw the same guy win the match. You could have kept things interesting by having Ohno win one of the matches at least, but all the wins were by Matt Riddle. So what are you going to do to keep things interesting? Are we going to see this continue? Will we see another stipulation? Will we see a cage match, some kind of a submission match? I don't know, but something needs to be done to keep this fresh. So we'll be talking more about what happened over the weekend with the World Wrestling Entertainment. Of course, we just talked about NXT TakeOver from Phoenix, and there was another event, the Royal Rumble, which we'll be talking about that up next. So until then, stay tuned, and we'll be talking about the Royal Rumble right after this.
Ride the winds, flying far and soaring like a hawk.
Run a marathon with the endurance of a tiger.
Swim across the ocean like a dolphin.
Beast Energy X. Do you have it in you?
Buy Beast Energy X at all Waffle Max locations and unleash the beast in you.
Join the Beast Energy X fan club and get free perks. Sign up by following us on Twitter at Beast Energy X.
Welcome back to Talk Wrestling Live.
Follow us on Twitter at TWL 24/7.
I'm not finished with you!
And now, let's get back to the show.
So if you're just joining us, this is Felix The Cat Katlovski, and this is Talk Wrestling Live. We just talked about NXT Takeover from Phoenix, which took place on Saturday, and that was the January the 27th. Unfortunately, Gemini Joe, he's still not here, and he should be back next week, so we'll be hearing more on his thoughts from the Royal Rumble and Takeover, if he's got anything to say about that. But let's get ourselves kicked off about Royal Rumble coverage. So before the pay-per-view officially began, we had a few matches that took place. There was Chad Gable and Bobby Roode. They teamed up to defeat Rezar and Scott Dawson. We also had the WWE United States title on the line when Shinsuke Nakamura, he defeated Rusev, who was the champion. Now, there was some miscommunication in this match. You had Rusev accidentally knocking Lana, his manager, off the ring apron when Nakamura was confronting Lana, but you had Rusev, he missed Nakamura, and instead he got Lana. She looked like she was hurting from her ankle by the way that she had landed on the floor, and Nakamura, he saw that opportunity, and he landed a hard knee in the back of Rusev's head, and that really helped him score the pinfall on Rusev. So now we have a new U.S. champion, and that's Shinsuke Nakamura. Up next, we had the Fatal 4-Way match for the WWE Cruiserweight title. It was Kalisto versus Hideo Itami versus Akira Tozawa versus the champion, Buddy Murphy. And of course, the champion, Buddy Murphy, he was victorious in this match. So as you can expect, this match was a scrambler with a lot of dives and high-flying moves, but in the end, like I mentioned, Buddy Murphy, he retained his Cruiserweight Championship by nailing Hideo Itami with the Murphy's Law. Now that's the finishing move of Buddy Murphy. So up next, we had the SmackDown Women's Championship on the line, and this was the opening match at Royal Rumble, I believe. It was Asuka, the champion, against Becky Lynch. Now, the winner of this match was Asuka in the end. But Becky, she earned this match for a shot at the SmackDown Women's Championship from the start. I mean, she beat Charlotte and Carmella in a triple threat match on SmackDown previously to get this match. But Becky just wasn't ready for Asuka in this match because at the Royal Rumble, we saw that LED screen being used just in general at this pay-per-view. We saw it used in this match as well, the LED board, but it was used later as well. We saw Asuka sending Becky Lynch into that LED board I was mentioning, that LED screen, and that's where it was used in this match. But we also keep calling Becky Lynch the man, but if she's truly the man, then the man got beat by Asuka at the Royal Rumble, and it wasn't a pinfall victory, but it was a submission because Asuka, she used that bridge and a submission move focusing on Becky Lynch's neck, and it caused Becky Lynch to tap out. So Becky Lynch, she was pretty disappointed that she tapped out, that she lost her match. Because this is a championship match. I mean, she could have become the SmackDown champion. And I guess there was just a lot of things on her mind. Like, she was probably preparing for that 30-woman Royal Rumble match that happened later in the evening. So, you know, it's hard to focus on one match when you have another one with so many other opponents coming up right after it, like, okay, several hours, but still, it's the same night. You don't have much time to rest and recuperate. What are you going to do? So, yeah, Becky Lynch lost the match, but we'll see. Maybe there's something that she can redeem herself with later in the show. So, we had the SmackDown Tag Team titles. They were on the line when Shane McMahon and The Miz took on the champions, The Bar, Cesaro, and Sheamus. Now, it's really crazy seeing Shane McMahon and The Miz becoming such a legit tag team. I mean, The Bar wasn't even sure what to make of this team at first, but this match proved that The Miz and Shane McMahon are a legit team and not to just be cast aside. So one of the main highlights of this match was when Shane McMahon, he was going for that coast-to-coast move We've seen Rob Van Dam do it back in the days of ECW. But Shane, he was jumping from one turnbuckle to the other side of the ring, and this was going to be on both of his opponents. But Cesaro, he saw this, and he just caught Shane McMahon in midair, and he turned this move into a spin with lots of rotations. So I thought Shane O'Mac was going to puke from all the spins that he was getting. I mean, he was just being spun around and round the ring, and you never knew if he was going to hit the turnbuckle on his head. But Cesaro, he does a good job holding his opponent so he doesn't, crash and hit something. But I really thought Shane McMahon, he was going to puke with all those spins, like I said. I mean, if you spun around in your chair, if somebody was spinning you, I mean, tell me how long you can go with all those spins. Give it 10, 20 spins and let's see how you feel. So you'd probably puke from that. But Shane really kept his composure, even though he looked pretty dizzy, constantly touching his head throughout the match. We did see some great teamwork, though, when Miz pushed Cesaro into a bro kick, and we saw Miz do the skull-crushing finale on Sheamus. And then you had Shane McMahon. He was already ready. He was standing on that turnbuckle, and I thought he was going to go for another diving elbow, but he really surprised me right here because he did a move straight out of the playbook of Billy Kidman when Shane McMahon successfully hit that shooting star press. Now, I don't remember any time that Shane ever went for that move in the past, but it worked this time, and Shane managed to get the pinfall over Cesaro, capturing both the tag team titles with The Miz. Now, in the post-match, we had The Miz. He was celebrating at ringside with his dad, and apparently his dad, George, he owns a Mr. Hero right here in Cleveland, Ohio, so that was pretty cool to see that. But we saw Shane and The Miz. They were celebrating with George, the father of The Miz, and everything was happy. So they got their victory, they got their tag team titles, and now they've proven that they're a legit tag team, and who knows how long this tag team's going to last. I mean, miscommunication one day, you always have to wonder what's going to happen because there's always a beginning and there's always an end to these tag teams. They always have a rise and a fall. So right now, I think we just watched their rise. So let's see how long they can keep those tag team titles. And up next, we had the Raw Women's title match that was on the line when we had Sasha Banks taking on Ronda Rousey, the champion. Now, of course, Ronda Rousey, you could imagine that she won, and she did. The match was really wild, though. At one point, I do remember Ronda Rousey sending Sasha Banks into that LED screen again. So we talked about that LED screen being used previously in a match, and here it was used again. And it really captured the image in this match when that LED screen was used, because as soon as Ronda Rousey sent Sasha Banks crashing into that LED screen, I mean, you could feel it. The screen could feel it itself. I mean, the video's feed went out. Like, you watched Sasha Banks crashing into that LED screen, and the LED screen, it just went black. Like, there was nothing on it. At first, there was, promotional graphics, but then it just all disappeared into blackness when that collision happened. So earlier in the match, we saw Rousey going for the Three Amigos, and this move is synonymous with the great work of Eddie Guerrero. I really thought that Rousey might have been using kind of mind games, because usually it's Sasha Banks who pays homage to Eddie Guerrero with that move. Now, we also saw Rousey attempting to pay homage to Rowdy Piper with the Piper's Pit, but Banks, she was able to turn it into an armbar. We saw Rousey, she went for the Piper's Pit a second time, and this time she was successful in getting the move on Sasha Banks, but you can tell that her arm was still bothering her after taking all those submission moves from Sasha Banks. There was a lot of in-ring psychology being told with the focus of submission moves targeting the arm in this match. In the end, it was Rousey that won with another Piper's Pit, so I think that was like 3 times that Ronda Rousey went for the Piper's Pit. The first time it was not successful, but the second time and the third time, those connected. In the post-match, though, Ronda Rousey, while she was celebrating with her husband, you can tell there was still beef between Ronda Rousey and Sasha Banks, and it just isn't over yet, because Banks, she looked really angry. She started staring down Ronda Rousey while Rousey was still celebrating her win. So maybe things are not over there. But now it's time to talk about the 30-woman Royal Rumble match. And the winner of that match, surprisingly, it was Becky Lynch, and I'll tell you what that means after this. But first, let's talk about this match. We're looking at this Royal Rumble match, and we already know Becky Lynch is the winner. So what does that mean? I mean, we already had the opening match at the Royal Rumble where it was Becky Lynch versus Asuka, and now that looks like what's going to happen at WrestleMania. I mean, it seems like we're back to the drawing board, back to where we first started. So we already saw this match take place as the opening match, Asuka versus Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch couldn't get the job done. She goes into a Royal Rumble match, the 30-woman Royal Rumble match, and she survives. She won. She won the match. So now she's going to WrestleMania, but it's just really mind-boggling because this is pretty much the same match we saw in the opening of Royal Rumble. So are we going to see another stipulation added? I mean, something's got to give. Are we going to see a third person added to this match, maybe a fourth as well? Because I know a lot of people have set their sights on this title, so a lot of them want this belt really badly. And we'll just have to see what happens up to WrestleMania because a lot of things can change. I mean, it's not that far away, but things can happen really quickly in wrestling. But let's talk more about this match for the 30-woman Royal Rumble. There were some highlights from the match that I thought. It looked like a big feud that might take place when we saw several encounters from Lacey Evans and Charlotte Flair. And then who knows? I mean, Lacey Evans, she got involved with Natalya Neidhart as well, so maybe something can happen there too. But I thought it was pretty cool how we saw Naomi. She was keeping her balance on the guardrail. I don't know if she has like some gymnastic history, but I mean, it's tough. You're walking across that guardrail and you're trying not to fall off because if you fall off, you can be eliminated. Both feet touch the floor. But she was able to keep her balance and she avoided elimination. But right as she made it to the steel steps, it looked like all she did was for nothing because she was eliminated right there. Now, we saw some interesting newcomers in this match as well. We saw Xia Li, and she kind of reminds me of Chun-Li from Street Fighter. I was hoping she was going to do those Chun-Li kicks. And then we saw Zelina Vega, and Vega, she's also pulling a play out of Street Fighter because she came out in this mask from Street Fighter. You remember the character Vega. Well, she came out with that same exact mask. Now, she had an interesting strategy. She hid under that ring for a while, but then she was surprised because she wasn't the only one under that ring. It was Hornswoggle, that leprechaun. He was waiting right there with her under that ring, and he could have had bad intentions. I mean, everybody knows he's a biter, so he might have had things on his mind. Now, I'd love to see Xia Li and Io Shirai be a tag team one day. They look like they could have some great chemistry, whether they're in tag team matches or in singles matches. But you can expect another feud between Natalya and Nia Jax because they were going at it in this match. I mean, I was surprised that Becky Lynch was even able to eliminate Nia Jax. I mean, you could tell all the energy that she spent on eliminating Nia Jax in this match, it was just drained from her. Because in the end, it was down to Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. And I mean, Becky was barely able to walk after officials even checked on her. But the match had to continue, and like I said, Becky was still having trouble walking, but Flair made sure to target the knee because she saw, I mean, she's having trouble walking right here. That's not a bad place to target, that her walking is impaired right there. But Becky Lynch, she was able to find some energy left within her, and she did eliminate Charlotte Flair, and now we know exactly who's going to WrestleMania. It is Becky Lynch, like we mentioned. She's taken on, I mean, she could take on Asuka, and this could be the very same match that we saw in the Royal Rumble opening, like I said. But in the next match, we did see the WWE title. It was on the line when AJ Styles, he lost to Daniel Bryan. Now, the match was really back and forth, but Eric Rowan, he made a surprise, he got involved, and he helped Daniel Bryan get the win. Now, I don't think this feud is over because Daniel Bryan, he attacked AJ Styles after the match was over, and he left together with Eric Rowan. So Eric Rowan, he's being added to this mix. It's going to be interesting to see what AJ wants to do to Eric Rowan, if he wants to get revenge on him, or if he wants to keep focusing on Daniel Bryan. But something's got to give because things are getting personal. The championship, AJ wasn't able to win it. Yeah, just strange combination over there with Eric Rowan and Daniel Bryan. Looks like something's going to happen right there. I think if I was AJ Styles, I'd try to focus on Eric Rowan, get him out of the picture, and then focus on Daniel Bryan again. But that's just what I would do. AJ probably has his own game plan. And then we had the WWE Universal title match. We had Finn Balor. He lost to Brock Lesnar, the champion. So it really looked like Balor was going to win this match when he went for that coup de grace from the top. But right when Lesnar kicked out of that pin, Lesnar instantly locked in the Kimura lock, followed by Balor tapping out. So after the match, you had Lesnar continuing to abuse Balor, and Balor was taking a German suplex and an F5. So Brock Lesnar, I don't want to call him a sore loser. I mean, he won this match, but I guess he's a sore winner. I mean, the match is over. Why you got to abuse this kid, Finn Balor? You got your championship. You got your win. So what do you have to prove now? You just want to show your next opponent that this is what's going to happen to them, I guess. Brock Lesnar is a beast, and I wouldn't want to step in the ring with him right there. But then we had the main event, the 30-man Royal Rumble match, and we started out with an interesting combination right here. It was Elias and Jeff Jarrett, the first two entrants, two guys with a history of using guitars. Now, they were about to have a duet, but Elias, he just kind of outsmarted Jeff, and I was kind of surprised by that because Jeff, he didn't see past this, and he has more experience in the ring than Elias, but I don't know if that's ring rust building up or something, but there was definitely inexperience there, and I don't know why Jeff Jarrett showed that because he's been in this business for a long time. I was also confused with why the fans were eating pancakes that were given to them by the New Day. I mean, I know everybody loves free food, but I don't think the fans knew where those pancakes had been because it was pretty evident. I mean, it happened right in front of them. I think Big E was the one passing them out, and if you just watch where those pancakes came from, where he grabbed them from, I don't think you'd want to eat them yourself. I mean, free food and all, but is it really worth it? So later in the match, we did see Seth Rollins. He got hurt, and he had to be checked on by medical officials, but he did later return to the match, and he was able to beat Braun Strowman to win the match. Nia Jax also made an impressive run in the match. This was the men's Royal Rumble, but she found herself in the match as well. Jax, I don't know how she just got into this because she just took matters into her own hands. I mean, you had Ron Killings. He won that 30-man spot. He became the 30th entrant with Carmella. She won that 30th spot in the Women's Rumble as well. But, I mean, Nia Jax, she was like, I'm not in this match. I want to be in this. And I'm going to take matters into my own hands. And I'm going to take out Ron Killings. And that's exactly what she did. On the entrance ramp, just as Killings was coming out, you have Nia Jax take him out. And that's the end of Ron Killings. He's not in that Royal Rumble match anymore. And she just took his place. She literally replaced him. Now, in the match, she did have Rey Mysterio eliminating Nia Jax. But earlier in the match, he had to have help from Randy Orton and Dolph Ziggler. But that was pretty much the Royal Rumble. So Seth Rollins wins. I guess he's going to be taking on Brock Lesnar at Mania. It all depends on which title he goes for, I guess. But I don't know, is that the kind of WrestleMania that you fans want to see? Do you want to see Seth Rollins go against Brock Lesnar, or do you want to see something different? I'm going to leave that to you guys. You let us know. Check us out on Twitter at TWL247, and let us know how you feel. Do you want to see Seth Rollins go against Brock Lesnar? Are you happy with that? Do you want to see Asuka go up against Becky Lynch again? We already saw this at Royal Rumble. Do you think they should add something different to this? So tune in next week when we talk more about our thoughts from Royal Rumble. Hopefully we can get Gemini Joe back, and he can give us his 2 cents on the event, as well as Takeover from Phoenix. And we can hear from how he felt about the event, what matches he was entertained by, and what match he thought was boring. But that does it for this week's show on Talk Wrestling Live. Join us next week on NorthCoastUnderground.com, where the Underground starts with you.
You've been listening to Talk Wrestling Live. Listen live on Mondays at 4 p.m. on NorthCoastUnderground.com.
And follow us on Twitter at TWL247.
Goodbye, mwah, and good night, bad.
Rest in peace.